Hi, my name is Michael. I'm 16. You know, my life is not simple. I would say it's far from simple. My everyday is hell. My height is to blame for everything. Don't be surprised. Height can be a curse, but first things first. When I was born, I was an enormous child. I grew up every day, and I was taller than my brothers, although I was the youngest in the family. The doctors thought I had an illness. I spent the first years of my life in the hospital. They always ran tests, checked on all kinds of devices, but in the end, they found out that I was healthy, just very tall. My growth slowed down for a while, but then grew rapidly in a couple of months. In kindergarten, at school, I was always taller than everyone else, and many thought I'm dumb, and I stayed for the second year. At the age of 12, I was already taller than my parents and everyone else in my family. My height had always attracted attention of others. Everyone was curious where I got my height. Over time, everyone began to hint to my dad that it was weird. We don't have people of this height in our family. Dad was angry. Mom was crying. Simultaneously, everyone didn't care that I looked very much like my father. And I began to hate my height even more because all the trouble came from it. I was slouched continuously over and wanted to appear shorter than I was, but that didn't help. At first, everyone said it was cool to be so tall, and that I was even invited to play volleyball. I was so happy. I finally did not feel ashamed because everyone in the team was tall, although I was taller there too. But I didn't play very well. Therefore, after a while, the whole group began to scoff at me, saying that I am brainless, so I can't even handle the ball. As a result, I broke my arm, was sent to the reserve, and the next year, I was never called to the team. Then, the basketball coach got interested in me. Despite my previous failures, he decided to take me to the team. There were players even taller than me, and I hoped to become one of them. But on the very first workout, I did not stretch well and broke my leg. It was a fiasco. They immediately reminded me of all my failures in volleyball. They started laughing at me. The coach calmed them down, called the doctor, then explained that I wouldn't be able to play in a team where everyone does not consider me equal. It took another year to recover from this trauma, and my ego was utterly destroyed. The next misfortune was her. She was the tallest, most beautiful girl in our school. She decided that I'm tall enough, and she offered to date herself. I was happy. I was pleased that someone appreciated me and really wanted to be an exemplary guy. I gave her flowers, gifts, recited poetry, and then I noticed that everyone was laughing and showing each other some videos. It turned out that she launched an experimental blog called How to Fall in Love with a Loser and filmed all our dates. Can you imagine? She just played and earned herself popularity, and everyone was not only watching, but also betting on what I would bring to her on the next date, or when I dare to kiss her. It was just awful. When I found out about all this, I did not want to go to school, but my father said that I was already creating a lot of problems for them, and therefore no one was going to bother with me. My life became simply unbearable. I didn't want to live anymore. I went to the bridge that day. I climbed over the fence and decided that it was better to drown, because no one cares and no one will be upset. I stood and thought that this is a top end because the sunset today is simply unrealistically beautiful. "Great shot," I heard from behind. "You look great. Wait a little longer. It'll take a couple more shots." I froze. After a couple of clicks of the camera, a girl stood next to me. You know, this fence always bothered me too. I think it pushes me away from the beautiful moment of communication with nature. I love beautiful sunsets. I was just speechless. She was very ordinary, but at the same time, so beautiful. I am Rachel, a photographer from a modeling agency. I was looking for the right angles for a new photo shoot, and I found you. You know, with such data, you have to shoot for the covers of glossy magazines. "Come to the agency tomorrow. I'll do a test shoot," she said and handed me a business card. She left. I sat down on a bench on the bridge, turned my business card and thought, I probably should try. And I tried it. Now I am 16 years old. My photos can be seen in the best magazines. Half of the girls are already running after me at school. My family is proud of me, and I realize that everything is in our heads. At all this time, the problem was not in height, but in my insecurities. Well, okay, I'll go to the shooting. And you subscribe to our channel, like, and click the bell to not miss anything interesting.
Hey everyone, my name's Ian. I'm 23 years old, I have a job and a girl I love. However, my life hasn't always been so peaceful and happy. It all started the day I was born. One day, a sunny July morning, I was born. My parents were flying high above the sky. Nevertheless, their happiness ended when the doctor said I was an extraordinary boy. They discovered a tail at my birth. My parents were told I was a mutant. Everyone was shocked because no one in our family had ever been born with such a defect before, and it was believed that the human race lost its tails in ancient times. But that's what I was. My tail looked like a 15-centimeter sprout and was covered with ordinary human skin. When I was a kid, I didn't even realize how frustrating it was to have a tail. My tail would rejoice with me, wagging like a puppy's tail when I started playing tag with the kids. When I started attending kindergarten, my parents would put on special clothes to hide it. That's how I grew up. At school, I could no longer hide my tail because there was no clothing that could do it. Even so, I had a special pocket in my pants where I put my tail. My parents often took me to examinations, but there were no tail removal specialists in our small town. They'd say, "The boy's perfectly healthy. Is his tail bothering him or what?" Since I was a very agile and athletic boy, I attended sports classes, and in the heat of excitement, the tail would start moving like an animal's. That's the reason I've been mocked since I was a child. I even liked the special treatment I had. Guys often laughed when it was amusingly moving, and I managed to score goals or beat them. That's why I've always been the leader in sports. In general, it brought me laughter and joy. However, when puberty began, there was nothing to laugh about. Boys found themselves cool girls. They dated them, they loved, quarreled, cut their veins, fought, and laid out their names with flowers on the school square. In a word, we were filled with these damn youth hormones. You'd think I was calm. No way. I was triply crazy because I had 3 people's health. Although I tried to look calmer, dress in fashion, have a fancy hairdo, but there was a volcano inside me. In addition, from time to time I unwittingly looked at girls. I was 14 years old. When I smiled at them or made romantic gestures, they'd shrink from me and try to run away. I'd get hurt from that attitude. After all, even any nerd at a school had a female friend, and I was only called when it was necessary to carry weights or defend the honor of the school at sports competitions. I'm also a human being and was capable of strong feelings. Moreover, they weren't in demand. I took out all the unspent energy of love on sports. I played harder, ran faster, beat stronger. My parents felt it and took me for another medical checkup once to find out if the tail could be removed. This time we went to the capital city to see strong specialists. There I underwent a bunch of tests and made an MRI. The doctors held an extended case conference. As a result, a very smart professor said that it was impossible to remove the tail, even not suggested at all, because there's a very powerful spinal cord center in my tail. Therefore, the tail was second to the brain in importance, and its removal would lead to disability or even death. On top of that, they were also surprised at my powerful immunity, which was due to the tail. I was attached to this research institute for free to study me for the benefit of science. It didn't matter to me. I dreamed of being just an ordinary guy to be friends with some girl. At school, my life was boring, without joy. It was just study, sports, and the lives of others were filled with romance and love stories. However, that's what school is all about, so that all kinds of accidents happen. One day, my whole class went on a picnic. Thankfully, the city of Victorville stood next to the Sierra Nevada mountains. We picked a lawn, set up tents, the boys went to pick firewood, and the girls went to pick flowers. It was spring. Suddenly, we heard the girls screaming. I immediately rushed in that direction. I saw the girls running towards us from afar. They were pointing their hands and shouting the name Katharina. Katharina! There's Katharina! I ran through the trees and saw a huge deer trampling and poking my classmate. I threw myself all over the deer and pushed it, but it didn't even move. It was such a big male, weighing 500 pounds. My nose was hit by a sharp, stinking smell from the buck. Poor Katharina was sitting with her knees bent, hiding her face with her hands. But the deer had managed to poke her a couple of times that the jacket was all torn. She didn't even shout. That view made my blood leap. Some sort of rage appeared in me. I jumped on his neck, grabbed his branching horns with my 2 hands, and started to twist with all my strength. What a powerful animal it was! What a strong neck! But I was a bit of a lad too. I furiously wrestled with it. It turned out I was even growling and shouting. That's what my classmates told me later. They also came running, but they stood far away, afraid to approach. Our teacher managed to drag Katharina away. Now, we were one-on-one with a wild animal. I don't remember how long our confrontation lasted, but I thought it was an eternity. Then everything became quiet. I heard my growling and the hoarse breathing of the deer. We were lying on the grass. My hands were numb, his head was pressed to the ground, and everybody froze. Then the teacher chased all the pupils away and started shouting to me, "Let him go and run to me. I have a stick, I'll drive him away." I came to myself and saw the sky, the edge of the forest, the frightened and wild eyes of the stag close. I loosened my fingers and bounced off of it with a tumble. The deer, having felt freedom, got up on his feet with a single jerk. Yeah, it was a huge buck. He stood on his feet, spread wide a little bit, and raised his head majestically. There were steam clubs coming out of his nose. It felt like his hormones were beating over the edge, too. What a beautiful deer. At this point, the teacher shouted loudly and swung the stick. The deer twitched, then darted into the woods and disappeared. There was a lot of discussion at the school about this incident, and my fame spread about the city outside of the state. Katerina's parents came to thank me. I honestly felt like some kind of hero, some kind of a mighty Tarzan. I wanted to run and run through mountains and forests. I felt a huge power in me. The reason for my brave confrontation with a wild animal was my tail, filled with unusual energy. After this incident, everyone in town started treating me with respect, no longer joking about my tail. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. One day, during a lesson, the principal walked into our class and called me. It turned out that a journalist from another state had arrived to make a film about me and my tail. When I came out into the hallway, I saw a girl almost my age. At that moment, there was a powerful discharge of electricity between us. I couldn't breathe. The director, having quickly introduced us, hastened to business. We looked at each other for a long time, and as if we were talking telepathically, I knew for sure that she was the girl. That's how it turned out. Jennifer came to meet me on purpose, because she has a 10 centimeters tail and she is the champion of her state and eco challenge. Eventually, we became boyfriend and girlfriend. We work at the state's National Reserve and we watch animals. Friends, tell me, have you ever had a case of you opposing a wild animal? Or an evil dog or an aggressive ram on a farm? If you enjoyed this video, please like and write a comment.